Thank you for listening to Illuminate, the Advent podcast from Hands at Work in Africa. Throughout the year in Africa, we focus on a different Bible story. In the first week, we read from the Gospel of Luke in chapter 1, Gabriel's message to Mary, the soon-to-be Mother of the Most High. Each week leading up to Christmas, we will hear from African leaders. They will describe how the scripture is seen in their context and on the ground in Africa. This week, we will hear from the team of the local Hands at Work office in Kabwe, Zambia.
Kabwe Service Center would like to share the story of one holy home visit that we did in Malokota in December 2022. So we happened to visit Promise. Now Promise is 8 months pregnant and she has 2 grown-up children and a 7-year-old boy who lives with her. And in a few weeks' time, she will have her 4th child. She's the second wife of her husband and lives in the house beside his first wife and her children. The husband shares his time between each house. Now things are often tense and Promise feels alone. Originally, she comes from Mazabuka. Mazabuka is a town after Lusaka. And traveling from Kabwe to Mazabuka takes maybe the whole day. Now, she's troubled that there is nothing ready for a newborn baby. She explained to us that, if possible, when she feels the first signs of labor, she will begin walking to the clinic, hoping that someone can pick her on a bicycle and be able to escort her to the clinic. She's nervous, she feels alone, she's unprepared and very fearful. We asked Promise if she knew what Christmas means, and she replied that Christmas is about the birth of Jesus. We also asked if she knew any more details of the story, but she said she didn't. All she said was that her old church didn't really tell those things about the birth of Christ and the importance of the birth of Christ. So it was here where we shared a simple version of Jesus' birth and this month's Bible story. Being pregnant in a strange place and in strange circumstances, Mary knew what it was like to give birth when things are not well. Promise felt a connection with Mary of the Bible in a strange place with family tensions, as well as the insecurity of not having everything prepared for the expected baby. Now, Promise heard for the first time that Jesus' birth took place in a village with more similarities to Malokota than fancy parts of Kabwe or Lusaka. A goat pen or even anything where animals would live in, this is where Jesus surprisingly was born from. Promise understood how surprised and shocked, how greatly disturbed Mary was at being told she's highly favored. Promise doesn't feel favored or even seen yet here in this story. We see God uses people like Promise. Mary had someone to run to, and she hurried to Elizabeth. How much would Promise like an Elizabeth to run to? Because Promise told us that the other children from the other wife didn't even respect her. Even though she was that pregnant, they still wouldn't help her to do the daily chores like drawing water and cooking. She was cooking for herself and goes to draw water herself. Elizabeth told Mary how privileged she was to be visited by Mary. Mary was favored to be visited by the angel. Promise spoke of how proud and valued she felt to be visited by the care workers in Malokota that day. If it wasn't for them, she wouldn't receive any visitors, and it makes her heart full. She felt loved, when the care workers visited her.
You've been listening to Illuminate podcast by Hands at Work in Africa. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, please find us on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcast by searching Meanwhile in Africa. Learn how you can give the gift of hope. Visit www.handsatwork.org/join us this Christmas.